right, welcome back to the Swish Talk, and I'm super excited right now because I have a new guest and sitting in front of me right now. And why I'm super excited is because he is not he's like into coaching for like the last couple months, so he's not too experienced yet, and this is something where I think is really interesting, and I really want to get to the bottom of it. He just started his coaching career as an assistant at Queen's University. And yeah, last years he's spent in media, and I'm super grateful and happy that he's here right now. Nick Lorensen, how's it going, brother?
How's it going, David? I'm shocked you found me from across the pond. That's pretty crazy.
Well, there you go. That's actually where I started, just looking up, coaches from all over the world, and you were pretty high up actually. So yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. So how's it going? You're good? Everything okay? Where are you at right now?
Yeah, I'm in Baltimore. I'm chilling, covering, watching baseball every day, getting ready for the next basketball season, just crunching down film. Excited. Couple of weeks, I should be at my next spot. Keep that under wraps for now, but I'm just excited to get back in it. There's nothing like college basketball. There's nothing like coaching it. I mean, we're going to talk about it. I was on the media side, and I obviously love watching it and covering it. But this last year, I've really fallen in love with just being around the guys every day and helping them learn and just becoming a person that they can come and talk to. So, I mean, that's what it's all about, those relationships and helping those guys grow.
It sounds great. I'm definitely ready to hear more about that. But maybe first, to all the listeners, maybe you can just like introduce yourself a little bit. Um, and also, what interests me a lot is how you kind of fell in love with basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. So I'm Nick Lorensen. I spent this past year as a coaching intern at Queen's University. Um, but yeah, my journey is completely different than everyone else. Everyone has completely different journeys. So it really started when I was in middle school. I love college basketball. I would follow it at home. I was never an amazing basketball player. I could just rebound like crazy. But I came up and I created this Instagram account, and it was just covering the game, just covering the game, posting scores, talking to people about the games. And one day, some guy reached out to me. He was a Seton Hall fan. And he goes, "You should really make a team specific account." So I made two. I made one for Duquesne. My dad went there. My grandfather taught there for 30 years. I'm still a humongous fan. I went and I saw them win the A10 title this year. Watched the tournament games with my family. That was something I'll never forget. In UMBC. So I'm from Catonsville, Maryland, right outside Baltimore. It's the same town as UMBC. Gave me the opportunity to go and cover their games because I'm right there in their backyard. And about 2, 3 years into that, UMBC ended up upsetting Virginia in the NCAA tournament. At that time, it was probably the biggest upset in NCAA tournament history, first 16 over one seed. And UMBC didn't have an Instagram account. So when that happened, all the big accounts were tagging me, thinking I was the athletic department. It was like ESPN, Sports Center, USA Today, Bleacher Report, Steph Curry, the Baltimore Ravens. All these big accounts were tagging me, and the department reached out to me, and they're like, "Can we have your name, like your Instagram name?" And my mom kind of had this idea. She wanted me to be in, or I've always wanted to be in sports, and she knew this was a good outlet for me to do it. She's like, "How about you ask them for an internship and then you give them your name?" So I got that, and I did that my final 2 years of high school. I mean, my high school is right on the other side of the hill from UMBC, so I just walked over. I believe it was every other day until COVID happened, and I was just writing for mid-major madness. I started writing my senior year of high school or junior years, one of the two, but I was covering games around the area for 2 years. So I had a nice little footprint in the DMV and in Philly and all that. And then I went down south. I went to school. First year, just covered the game. And then during my second year, the guy that was running Mid Major Madness on Twitter, which I now run, went to go work for Kevin Durant. And I saw a little void there. Everyone loved that account, but there was no one running it. So the first couple months of the year is completely quiet. No one was talking about mid-major basketball. And I reached out. I'm like, "Can I run this account?" And they let me for some reason. And it was at 25,000 followers. And we're closing in on about 70,000 right now. So I upped it. What's that? 45,000 followers within the last 2.5 years. And this past year, I was graduating from South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, and I needed an internship to graduate. and I've always been interested in coaching and recruiting. So I reached out to some people first. They had a couple offers on the table, but I posted something on Twitter like I need an internship to graduate college. I've always wanted to work in college basketball. If there's any opportunities anyone knows of, just hit me up. And instantly I got a text message from Grant Leonard at Queens. The year prior was their first year in D1 basketball. And I did this the last 2, 3 years. I've done these previews heading into the season, interviewing coaches from every league on Twitter to get to know about the league, get to know about their team. And he was the only guy that did it at that point for the ASUN. Richie McKay did it as well for Liberty, but I just did it over the phone. But we had a nice little conversation there. We kept going back and forth. And when I made that post, within minutes, he texted me. I'll never forget. I was in a grocery store with my mom in the produce section. Um, and he invited me on, and I was there in September. And every day I commuted from Columbia, South Carolina, which is about an hour and a half south. I believe it was about 100 miles every day. I would drive. Um, and yeah, I did a lot of operations stuff this year, did a lot of scouting stuff this year, but it was a great team. We won a game in the conference tournament. Um, it's a year I'll never forget, and now it's just helped me gain some connections with at a closer level, and now they know that I'm not a fraud, and I only just do it on Twitter, on my couch and do it, but that I can do it for an office and help a team win, and it's just been awesome. It's been a crazy last year, and there's nothing like it. There's nothing like college basketball. And if you just put your heart out there and you grind and you're a real person and not try to use people, you'll be going in a correct direction.
Thanks so much for, it's been incredible. I mean, it just starts out, right? Like you making this Twitter account and where you ended up it's amazing, you know. Uh I think it's very inspirational because sometimes you just got to do things and one thing can lead to the other where you thought you never thought, right? Like starting this account, this is where you would end up.
No, I just wanted to do it for fun. I just wanted
Yeah,
to talk about the sport, cover the sport.
right. And now you ended up in this podcast.
Exactly. Talking to a guy from Germany right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. There we go. Wow, it's amazing. Just like out of curiosity, but how did you grow these accounts? Like, what would you say? What is the secret?
Just consistency. I mean, when I was in middle school, I would post pretty much every big score. When I was doing the UMBC account, I would post at midnight of the game. I would post a little preview. During the game, I would post at halftime, and then I'd post after the game, and then maybe I'd post some highlights after that. So just be consistent with that. With Mid Major Madness, I mean, even right now, I'm still running. It's pretty much nonstop. So you just gotta cover the game and be consistent with it. I mean, sometimes it's really a grind, but if you love it, you love it. You're gonna stick with it. And I guess that really shows a lot. Just keeping your head down and grinding and not really complaining and just continuously doing what you want to do. So it's a lot of consistency. That's the key to success, I believe. Consistency and doing it the right way.
That's awesome. I think that's a good point. What you made is like when you love it, you can overcome these obstacles because there are days where you don't want to do it, right? And I think these are the days where you really separate the two because there are also people who try it and then these days come along and they don't really love it, they don't have a passion for it, so this is maybe the point where they stop. And in this case, the passion was strong enough to overcome these days and keep going, keep grinding, and yeah, I think it's amazing what you did. Um, so then you started at Queens, and I mean, you mentioned it like it was a day you will never forget when you got this message, um, which really shows how excited you must have been. But how was that? Like, was it like a movie the last couple months? I don't know. When did you start at Queens?
I started in September. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I was down at school for a week, and then I headed up there. In the first half of the year, I was still taking a full class schedule plus Ansem. So a typical class schedule is usually 5 classes. Throughout college, it took 6 classes a semester. So I was taking the 6 class semester. And I was heading up to Queens every other day. So I believe it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was heading up there. Only had classes on Tuesday and Thursday. So I was doing that. It was crazy. First game at Marshall, had no idea what I was doing, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And I kind of got a niche within the team. And you know, I mean, like I got lucky because my first one we scrimmaged Charleston, my first scout, and I covered the CAA a lot, the league they're in. I covered them really closely, and before I was even going to get into media, I just talked to their coaches like man to man, and like I probably knew some stuff that I shouldn't have known about that team heading into the game. So that gave us an advantage. I mean, that was probably one of our biggest wins of the season. We beat a team that won 30 games before the season even started. But you look back and we played Southern Illinois, and that was probably my worst scout. And then towards the end of the year, I think when I helped out, we lost maybe one game in conference play. So I mean, at no point in my life I thought I'd be helping with the D1 scout. I did Duke. I never thought that I would be scouting to go up against Duke, and it was fairly close in the first half. And I mean, yeah, this last year I couldn't trade it for anything. It was awesome, amazing relationships, just being in the gym every day. There were some days where it's like I roll out of bed and I'm like, oh geez, I gotta travel 3 hours today.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it was always worth it. And just the relationships and the how much I've grown. I always told Grant, I feel like I grow. I always told him I felt like I grow 250%, but in reality, I feel like I grew 500% with my basketball mind. I entered it with very little in my head, and now I feel like I'm set for success and to continue growing.
That's awesome. So just like to understand, and also for the listeners, your main tasks were like scouting and looking at video, looking at film, right? And like, can you maybe elaborate a little bit more what your main tasks were?
Yeah, so during the day, usually come in the office right before practice, and we'd have practice, and then I would spend typically around 4 or 5 hours a day just on my computer on this thing called Synergy and watching basketball. I would just take down notes, tendencies for the guys, where they typically like to take their shots, what hand they use, if they're a passer, if they're a shooter. So I would do that for a couple hours a day. When we were on the road, it was a lot of operations stuff. So it was, getting the guys food, getting them drinks, letting them know what's up, when we're going to do certain things. But yeah, those are two of my probably biggest things. There's some times on the floor where, I'd help work out guys, but the main thing was really scouting and picking apart film and just helping our guys hopefully um, be ready for what's ahead of them. There's some programs that really focus all that much on scouting, and I think maybe we focused too much on scouting, but we had a really good three guys that did it. And, what I learned from them, I'll be carrying for the rest of my life, because I thought that I did quite a bit. And, I'd watch maybe 2, 3 games and probably grind 20 hours of film on the players. But, they would do that, and then they would watch maybe 6 to 8 games. And, you have such a short span between that. You got a game on Saturday, then you got a game on Thursday. So you do that in 5 days. It's a grind.
And you mentioned before you came, you didn't have a lot of knowledge, like, or what did you do before? Did you just watch basketball and were like you were a fan, or did you do like really these scouting sessions on your own, or like how did you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I was just a fan. I was just watching the game, seeing what was happening. I knew very little about X's and O's. Still have a lot to grow with X and O's. Um, but yeah, I mean, I could pretty much tell you what side someone was shooting from, and that was pretty much the base of my knowledge. I really just I just sat in front of the TV, or sat in front of my computer, really watched people closely and develop my mind, where when I was just sitting in the basement or sitting in my college dorm and just watching the games, I was just watching the games and pretty much just watching the scores and seeing what's happening. Is there an upset happening? That's all I really worried about. But at this level, this past year, it was really just watching it super closely. I'll remember like maybe 2 weeks in the season, Grant asked me, he goes, "Are you watching the games differently now that you're doing this?" 100%, 100%.
100%. Wow, I think I love your story. It's incredible. I mean, you came there and you didn't know, like, I mean, you were a fan obviously, but it's not like that you had like these big insights. And but what is great is that you came in there with open mind, developed a lot, and you said it yourself. Like the first time, what was like the first game, you didn't know anything basically, but then looking at, the development at the last game, it's so much different. And I also think as well, like for me, I mean, I started watching basketball when I was 19, which is really late actually, because here in Germany it's not that big. It's like more football or like soccer, what you call it, right? Um, but then I came to Toronto, I did a year there, and then all of a sudden, oh, basketball, here it is, and got really into it. And back then I thought, okay, I watch a lot of games and I know really a lot about the game itself, but watching now, it's so different because there's a game within a game as well, right? Like there's like things happening where the ball is not even there, and I think it's so interesting. But for me, it really took a lot as well, and it also takes time. It cannot come from today I'm gonna watch a lot and then tomorrow I know all these things. So yeah, I think that's just like the natural development. But for you being in that position, I mean, what you said, like 500%, probably even more. Um, it's amazing, and now you have this great experience and you can just like build on that. And I'm sure that you're gonna, I mean, with your Twitter account anyway, but in general you will definitely definitely find more opportunities in the future. I'm definitely certain of that. Wow, really cool story, really cool story, I gotta say. So what is also interesting to me is that um, for you, now you have made these experiences with like, the scouting and all that. Um, but have you really had this experience like really being on court or like really coaching the game?
Yeah, on the bench, yeah, I'll talk to guys, they'll come down or whatever, I'll speak to them. But during practice, I'm more of on the side of the court. I'll work out guys um before games, after practice or whatever. But yeah, I mean, during the game, they give me the opportunity to talk to guys if I want to and give them pointers and such. And with the scouting part, I watch it so closely. So I'll be at the end of the bench and I'll tell them what they need to do, or if say a guy has a certain tendency and he goes a certain way, watch out for that, or if he pump fakes or whatever. And I know that really helped out a couple of times. Our probably biggest one of the season, Eastern Kentucky, our big man was getting feasted upon in the first couple of minutes, and then I told him these tendencies and it slowed down. So I was really blessed this year. I mean, it's a small staff. They really let me do what I wanted to do and gave me a lot of freedom. And they knew that, I was really grinding with the drive and everything. And I mean, I'm very, very blessed. And I definitely have a lot of room to grow on the floor, a lot of more stuff to do on the floor. But for first year, I was very, very pleasantly surprised with what they allowed me to do.
Yeah, I think you always got to start somewhere, right? Everyone does. I think even the best coaches in the world, they started at the start with no knowledge at all. So everybody has to start somewhere, and that's why we do it. But it's great that we know that we can all do it, we can all achieve it. And that's also my mindset. I always think if you really want something bad enough, then you will find a way. And yeah, I mean, for myself, I also want to be a great coach at some point. I don't know where will lead me, but that's why I'm also doing this podcast, right? It's not that old, but and I'm sure that I can improve a lot, on podcasting. I would say you're an expert since you were on a few more podcasts already, but you got to start and you just like got to do it, and you know, by time you will improve, and that's great. So from your perspective, is that something that you want to see yourself at some point, like being a head coach of a great team? Is that where you want to end up?
Yeah, 100%. I'm very long, far away from that. But 15, 20 years down the line, I would love to do that and just keep growing up the ladder. I didn't want to really just jump into a higher role right away. I wanted to do the grind like everyone else is doing. Obviously, a lot of kids were either played or were managers, and I didn't have that. So kind of skipped that level. But, I want to grind my way up to the top, do it for a program that I care about. I'm not going to take just any job. I want to in the future stay around home. I started down south about 8 hours away from home, but I would love in the future to be a key part of a program either in the DC, Baltimore, Philly area. And 15, 20 years down the line, that's the ultimate goal I would love to do.
That's the ultimate goal. So you're not gonna think that going back to media basically. I mean, you're still doing it, but is that something that you say, hey, I can also see myself there, or is there like I have to be like this is my path and there's no plan B?
I could always do media, like my thought over the last couple months is hopefully this thing continues to milk out and I can continue doing this. And then I get to a high enough level and something happens and then I can maybe be on ESPN or CBS or whatever. I could have done an internship for them this past year, but I wanted to do this instead. So yeah, I'm going to continue with the media stuff on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. But yeah, I mean, down the line when I'm finished my coaching career, that's what I ultimately want to do. I don't want to just like sit around and do nothing. I'm a guy that needs to be stimulated and do some work. So yeah, media is not closed. It will never be closed for me, even until I die. Until the day I die. If I don't die a basketball coach, I'll die a media guy.
All right, all right. That's great. Actually, like I mean, I'm not too much into American media since I'm here. Um, but I know some of the shows, but what I always hear is that nowadays it's more about entertainment than it is about actual knowledge. Is that something that you would also say? Maybe, I don't know, Stephen A. Smith, for example, right? When he's ranting and sometimes, obviously he has knowledge, but um, there's a podcast LeBron and JJ Redick are doing right now. It's different when they talk about basketball than when the media guys are talking about basketball. So how do you see that?
Yeah, 100%. Like I have friends that want to get into the business more on the gambling side and go, "Hey, I'm winning. Why does no one care about me?" Well, there's a guy named Trent who runs a big gambling account and has a big app now. He doesn't win. He's like, why does he have that platform? Because he's entertaining. So it really is at this point more of an entertainment over knowledge business, unless you're an announcer or unless you're on a booth of, say, a halftime show or whatever. If you're on a daytime, it's like daytime TV. Daytime TV in America is just gossip. A lot of the times, it's gossip what's happening. That's really what daytime TV is on ESPN with, say, Stephen A. Smith or with Colin Cowherd, even with the new head coach of Wisconsin Green Bay, Doug Gottlieb. It's just a whole bunch of gossip about the sport. Um, Now, those guys obviously have knowledge and they know what they're talking about, but it's more of an entertainment business, and they know that they got to keep people entertained and keep people's eyes on and hopefully get a laugh or unrational response. That's where they get the most clicks from. I mean, you're not going to sit down and listen to a guy go on for 15 minutes about the Princeton offense, but if some dude comes on and he starts yelling about how he burned down a tree, he's an Alabama fan, he burned down a tree at Auburn like that on Paul Feinbaum's show 15 years ago. That probably has 50 million hits on YouTube right now. So people are going to listen to the drama a lot more than they're going to listen to the analysis, unless you want to really get into it.
That's a good point, actually. And also, I mean, we have so much information right now. You don't know where to look. I mean, everywhere you can get information, and obviously, that's how, TikTok works as well, right? Like you have these clips which are not really long. I mean, nowadays they're longer, but they started out with like really short clips because that's the attention span someone has, and if you can catch them, then it's great, and if not, then you're off to the next information source. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I know the point behind it, but yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed when I got into all like basketball and NBA and all that. I really enjoyed watching them actually, and sometimes it's really fun and entertaining. But I would say I'm at the point right now where I need a little bit more about like knowledge than actual entertainment when it comes to that. But maybe we have a different view on it, instead of like normal NBA fans, right?
That's how it typically goes. You get You get really turned on the first 2 years and you like it, and then you start slowly getting away from it because it's pretty much nonsense.
I mean, how often did I see who is the GOAT, LeBron or MJ? It's like every second video, that's the debate, and they're always turning in circles. So, yeah, but that's how it is, I guess. Actually, when you did your Twitter account, did you take something of that into account? That you said, "Hey, I want to make it entertaining, or I want to make it more informative." What was your approach there?
Probably more entertaining. So the big thing about it that I think that really sets me aside, I watch a lot of these small schools, and that's probably the biggest thing, just watching the small schools. But the clips, people aren't exactly going to read some long tweet about a program unless it's about your own program, and they're going to retweet it and hey, big accounts talking about you. But if you post an interesting clip of some guy hitting maybe a 3/4 court shot, that's going to get a lot more clicks, going to get a lot more likes, and it's like TikTok. People like those short videos of something entertaining happening rather than reading a full length article, and that's just the way it goes nowadays.
And I mean, the success shows. Sometimes you have these other accounts, and then they do a lot of good stuff, and that's with everything I would say. But if you cannot like market it the right way, then nobody will see it, I guess, right? So yeah, before we get to the game that we're gonna play, I want to shift gears to one more thing, and that's just like because I'm very curious. I mean, you said the last season has been like a movie. Um, but I'm interested. What would you say is maybe the most memorable moment? What was the moment where you said, "I will never forget this moment," or "This is the moment where I really fell in love with this," or is there some moment, that you will always remember?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's some that really aren't PG, but I'll always remember my first tournament win when we went to Stetson. It's in DeLand, Florida, so it's in between Daytona Beach and it's in between Orlando. And we played on Friday. We found out where we were gonna go on Friday night, and we left Saturday, I believe, and it was just a complete whirlwind of a couple days. So uh it's higher seats hosts, and we find out, hey, we got to go to Stetson. We can't stay at Stetson this time around. We were at Stetson 2 weeks before. We can't stay at Stetson this time around because it's bike week in Daytona Beach. All the Harley Davidsons are there. So we had to stay in Orlando. So that was about a 30-minute trip. And before we played FGCU, we're walking up these stairs and they're like, here's your locker room. The players had uh, it was like the track and field locker room. Our locker room was a sports information director's office, and it's about the size of a one stall bathroom. So there was about 6 grown men in here changing, having meetings, and there's just like at this one random desk. But we were playing Florida Gulf Coast, and they had they like put on a piece of tape. I don't remember what the word was, like relentless or something like that. And they had it throughout the whole thing. And we were supposed to go down the stairs. They wanted us to go outside and then back into the arena. And we're like, screw that. So we just like cut right by their locker room every time. And Pat Chambers is our head coach. He was the head coach at Penn State for a long time. And they had this big sign. I remember tapping into the hallway, and he like ran out of his office. He's like, what the hell just happened? But we ended up beating them, yelling that the whole time. And during the game, I'll be excited on the end of the bench, and I'll show my enthusiasm. And since it was a starter conference tournaments, it was the first day, so there were only 2 games on. It was us, and there was a game at Eastern Kentucky between Jacksonville and Kennesaw State. A lot of people were watching our game. And I guess I caught the attention of a lot of people that know me, and they were posting videos of me celebrating at the end of the bench. And I'd retweet them on my mid-major madness account. I'd retweet them on my personal account, and somehow there's a lot of people that follow that account, obviously, and some ESPN producer caught the clip, um, and he put it on Sports Center. So it was like,
Oh wow.
we went back, we got food, we talked for a little while. We just hung out for maybe 2, 3 hours prepping for the next game. And I went back in my room. I was in the bathroom, and I got a call from one of our assistant coaches. And I was staying with someone I usually don't stay with, and he was already asleep. Um, and I'm on the toilet, and he goes, Nick, you'll never imagine this. What's up? They just showed you on Sports Center. Like they just highlighted you on Sports Center. They said your name. They put like a spotlight around you. Um, and I got someone to get me the clip, and I watched it, and the whole rest of the year they were just making fun of me about being on Sports Center. And I mean, that's something I'll never forget. I never thought that I'd be on Sports Center just for being myself at the end of the bench and celebrating some shots. And I personally, I love to be happy for our guys. I mean, that's the biggest thing. They're obviously there to for success, and it was happy to see them successful and pick up a big win in the conference tournament. But that's a day I'll never forget. We went to go get ice cream after the fact at this place called Wits, where we went when we were in Daytona or the land a couple weeks before. And we walked in, and there's like a Stetson manager, the team we were playing the next day, and it was just completely awkward. But we were all having so much fun. And the whole trip back, we ate our ice cream, and I was retweeting clips of that, and people were sending me the clips of that. And then a couple hours later, I was on Sports Center. It was a wonderful day.
That's amazing. I gotta look up that clip right after we finish. I will definitely look it up. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, and the great thing about the story is that Sports Center highlighted you for being you, and not for like, you didn't want to create a great clip or whatever. You were just yourself, and they loved it. So that's awesome. Great story. All right. So great talk, great talk. We're gonna shift gears, but before we go to the game we play, we're gonna have a short segment which is called Fun Facts About Basketball that you might know but probably will not, presented by me. And I'm gonna read you the fun fact that I have today for you. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't, but it might be very interesting. So, do you know Red Auerbach
Yep.
from the Boston Celtics? So in the 1960s, legendary coach Red Auerbach of the Boston Celtics had a unique way of motivating his players during timeouts. Instead of giving detailed instructions or pep talks, he would sometimes just light up a cigar on the sidelines. And this became his trademark celebration and a signal to everyone that he believed victory was imminent. So his confidence, got over to the players, and they were all feeling, confident that they're going to be victorious.
It'd be awesome if they still did it now. That'd be something wild. That'd be a sight to behold.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you were the opponent and you see Red Auerbach lighting up that cigar, it's like, okay, we got beaten, so this is it. All right, so let's play the game, and most of us know it. It's called Who Am I? So both of us, we are gonna write down a name, and the name has to be from this year's playoffs. Um, and yeah, it shouldn't be obviously roster spot 10 to 15 because I'm not, too knowledgeable about all these as well. So it should be possible and doable. And obviously, for the questions, we can also, use our phones. But let's see who wins this round and ultimately the game. Do you have a name in mind already?
Yep.
Okay. Um, all right. Yeah, I'll go with this one. All right. Okay, because you're the guest, I would give you the opportunity to ask your first question.
Is it is it in the Eastern Conference?
Yes. Okay. Um, is mine in the West?
No.
Okay.
Is he on the Pacers?
He's not on the Pacers. So it's not Halliburton or Siakam. Um, okay, mine is in the East as well. So my player is probably on the Knicks.
No.
No, okay.
Your player on the Knicks?
No. Um, okay, the Pacers. They were playing the Celtics. So my player is on the Celtics.
No. Is your is your player still in the playoffs? Oh, never mind, because it's only the Celtics that are left in the East. Are they on the Celtics?
No.
No.
Okay. Is my player a point guard?
Yes.
Interesting.
Um, is my player a center?
No. Hmm. In the Is my player 6 feet or smaller?
Nope.
Okay.
Did my player make it to the second round of the playoffs?
No. Hmm. Taller point guard. I mean, is Drew Holiday? Is he tall? Is my player a good shooter?
Uh, Kinda.
Kinda. Okay. Okay. All right. All right.
I'd say yeah, yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
He's not like a knockdown 3-point guy, but he's a good shooter.
Okay.
Is my player on the Orlando Magic?
Yes, he is. Okay. Oh, who else is there? Okay, we had. I mean, mine was in the East. He's a point guard. He's also a little bit taller, and he's kind of a good shooter. He's not on the Celtics, and he's not on the Knicks. So he could be on the Pacers. He could be Halliburton, maybe. He could be on the Magic. He could be on the Cavs. Who else was there? The Bucks, Sixers. Is okay, did my player reach the conference finals?
Yes. Is my player Paolo Banchero?
No. No. Is my player Halliburton?
No.
Oh, no? Is it Drew Holiday?
Hmm. Is my player under 6'4"?
No. Okay, I'll just try. Is my player Drew Holiday?
No.
No? What?
My player Franz Wagner?
Yes. Your place.
German.
I had to pick him, the German, and we won the World Cup last year with him, which was amazing. So yeah. Okay, this round goes to you.
My guy was TJ McConnell, by the way.
TJ McConnell. He's 6 feet or higher?
He's 6'1".
Wow. I actually love TJ McConnell. He's like, yeah, he's okay of a shooter, but he really brings energy, and I think he's a coach's dream. Um, so yeah, that's a great pick actually. Great pick, TJ McConnell. All right. So this round goes to you. Um, thanks so much, fair play. And thanks for having the time and for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And yeah, if all the listeners, want to reach out to you, want to see the video on Sports Center, or maybe, they have a position for you at the college in Baltimore or whatever, how can they reach out to you? What's the best way?
You can follow or reach out to me on Twitter at nlorensen sports, LORENSCN sports, and at mid_madness. And then on Instagram, you can follow me over at Nick Lorensen, NICKLORENSEN.
All right. I will also put that in the description if you misspelled it or whatever. But yeah, great to have you on. Thanks so much. And yeah, I will definitely hit you up once I reach episode 1000 or whatever, and then we can have a rematch.
Let's go. I'm down.
All right. All right. Thanks, man.